Okay, so in this video we will see how to enable the tracking for the intersections feature class. So tracking, what it does is it will create 4 fields, 2 type date and 2 type text. 2 of them will save the data for which username created this feature and what date and time it's been created, and the other 2 fields will save the data for when was the last time this feature is edited and who edited it. In order to enable the tracking, there's 2 ways to do that. You can right click on the feature class and come to manage and say enable editor tracking, or you can right click and go to properties and go to the tracking tab and say enable tracking. And here, if you already have your own fields for creator field and creator date and editor field and editor date, you can set it up from here. If you don't have these fields, like we have here, we didn't create fields for who created it and what date and who edited and what date. If we created the fields here, we can choose which fields to use for this data, but we can right click here and say manage enable editor tracking. And here our catalog is telling us that it will create 4 fields, 1 for the editor name, 1 for the editing date, 1 for the creator name, 1 for the creator date. I will say yes to that. And now the field's created successfully. When I say OK and I right click and I open the properties, and if I check the fields, you will see now that we have 4 extra fields created, 2 type text and 2 type date. And here it will save the date and the username who edited it. If I go to editor tracking here again, I will see that it's enabled and I will see that the fields been selected automatically. Also, we have the option here to set the date that will be saved in the date fields based on UTC date or based on database time field. So here we're gonna disable this, say apply, so we can change it. Now we can enable it again and choose the field for creator field, created user, created date, and editor user, and last edited user, and last edited date, in order for us to change the time to database time instead of UTC. So if our database saved in Atlanta, it will use the Eastern time. If it's saved in California, on a server in California, it will use the Pacific time. If we choose UTC, it will use the UTC time to save our dates for the editing. So here we'll use database time and we will say OK. And now let's open again our Atlanta MXD and see how when we create a new feature, it will automatically add the information for the user and what date this feature created. So if I enable the editing session again here, and I added an intersection right here, and then save the edits, stop the edits, use identify to identify the feature we just created. And now you see here created date showing today date and right now the time for now based on database time, and here's my name as a user, and last edited date also the same value. But if I come here right now and I enable another editing session and I edited this one from here to here, and now I will save the edits and do identify again, I will see that the last edited time changed here. So the difference here is 50 seconds between the created time and the edited time. And the edited user is me as well. The only problem here with enable tracking is it's not gonna work for any previous features. So in the previous video, we created this point right here and it doesn't have any value for the tracking. So always keep in mind that when you create a feature class, if you planning to keep the tracking values, like who created it and what date, make sure that you enable the tracking before you start adding features to your feature class. So make sure you enable the tracking, set the domain, set the global ID, and also if you want to enable attachment, we will see that in the next video how to enable attachment. So now let's close our session and go back to our catalog and see how can we enable attachment. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks.